let's get to some breaking news going on in Chicago. It looks like the teachers are going to strike in Chicago. Truth to Tweet shares this article. Truth to Tweet has a cousin, False to Tweet. False to Tweet, we don't really share their articles much because they're always false. They're always false, those articles. Now, I got to point out this photo. So check this out. We're just going to go to the article, not watch the video. But there is a dude in his jacket says DFL on the back. Now, DFL is a band. They're a punk band. They're not around anymore, to my knowledge. But they were around years ago. DFL stands for Dead Fucking Last. In honor of all this, today's song of the day, DFL. Just check out DFL. Their song "We Are the Dead." That's like their trademark song. It's, I believe, the same name of their first album. But just check out DFL. You can find them over on YouTube. Really fun punk rock band from the 80s and 90s, and you don't hear about them too often. They kind of went under the radar even when they were around, but they are legendary in certain circles. I'm assuming that jacket is a DFL jacket using the NFL logo, and man, I gotta own that jacket. I've got to. If you are the person in that DFL jacket, which maybe you're going to see this. I mean, I don't know. You're a punk rocker and you're a lefty. I'd like to think that that sort of fits my demo pretty well if we're using some branding lingo. So maybe you're watching this. Maybe you've at least heard of this. Maybe you're familiar with Get Your News On With Ron or the Jimmy Dore Show. I don't know, wishful thinking. But if you are the person in the DFL jacket and somehow you see this, please email me and let me know where you got that jacket. I mean, there's no other way I could possibly find information on the internet other than issuing a public plea. Seriously, though, that is badass. All right, moving on to the story. What's going on in Chicago? Chicago, strike threats are growing. Park District employees announced that this is from a couple hours ago, by the way. This is breaking right now. Park District employees announced that more than 94% of its members voted to authorize a strike. The same union, SEIU Local 73, also represents more than 7,000 school support staff. They're also considering a strike. So 94%. They're voting to authorize a strike. This is a 3-day voting process, by the way. This development comes as Chicago public school teachers vote over whether to authorize their own strike. Mayor Lori Lightfoot's office has not yet responded. The park workers and school support staff joined the Chicago's teacher union rally Tuesday night, that was last night, as CTU began a 3-day strike authorization vote. The rally drew support of presidential candidate Bernie Sanders as well as actor John Cusack. The teachers union is seeking a new 3-year contract. John Cusack, of course, was nice enough to hold up a boombox in support of the cause. He had a big boombox, and he was like, "We're going to strike." And it was playing Billy Bragg's version of "There Is Power in the Union, Solidarity Forever." John Cusack. Thanks for doing that, John Cusack. That's pretty freaking cool. Also, thank you, Bernie Sanders, for doing that. Thank you for being there. They stood with the strikers. And I know a lot of strikers, they want Bernie's support. They want Bernie to be vocal. They want Bernie to be out there. And he's getting out there. That's good. So that might be 3 strikes at the same time, all associated with Chicago school teachers. And it's a 3-day voting process. But if 94% supports it so far, I have a feeling it's going to happen. Unless, of course, this process involves superdelegates like the Working Families Party. 94% wanted it, but our superdelegates jumped in. They all said no. But I don't think that's the case here. So I think it's pretty safe to say we're going to see a strike of the Chicago's teachers. And when this happens, places like this are going to cover it. The corporate media is not. Why doesn't the corporate media cover it? Because strikes are contagious. And if people see strikes working, which, by the way, the teacher strikes have worked in Oklahoma, worked in West Virginia, worked in California. They got at least most of what they wanted. So if they see the strikes working, it's going to happen more. And this is exposed. The teacher strikes in general. Look at all the stuff this is exposed. This is exposed the fact that teachers are going into their own pockets to get supplies for the classroom. They're paying out of their pockets for that because the school doesn't supply it in a lot of cases. They haven't seen a pay raise in decades in some cases. They don't make living wages. Teachers are having to work 2 and 3 jobs. There was that story that went viral where a teacher had to be a server on the side to make ends meet. And they saw one of their students. They waited on one of their students. And their student, who doesn't know any better, doesn't know a lot about the world yet because they were very young, said, "Wow, Miss So-and-so, you must be rich. You're my teacher and you work here. You must be loaded." Ooh, going to be quite an awakening for that kid someday. What are the parents? If you're a parent in that situation, what do you do after? What do you do after if your kid says that? And the kid didn't say anything wrong, of course. The kid doesn't know any better. But do you sit your kid down and do you have a long conversation with them about the world around us and the injustice in it? Do you tell them how dishonest CEOs make tons of money when teachers who dedicated their lives to serving, because that's what teaching is, you are serving the public good. You are a public servant in many ways if you're a teacher, more so than a politician is. I know we misuse that phrase public servant quite often. The amount of people who get involved in politics to serve the public good are very, very few and far between. It is shocking there are any of them at this point. But teachers are true, genuine public servants. It is gross how underpaid they are at every level. I told you guys my personal stories. I used to adjunct. I would meet adjunct teachers that were barely breaking even being an adjunct. They barely broke even. For me, it was just a side thing that I did whenever tour dates were slow with comedy. And then I share this. I get paid. I would get paid more money to perform at one college than I got paid to teach for a semester. That's the truth. Now, it's kind of a different type of analogy because you got to factor in travel costs and stuff like that, but it's still insane. And believe me, college performers are not overpaid. Adjuncts are grossly underpaid. That's the theme here. Oh, and by the way, at the time, I was in opening road act. I was playing, second and third tier comedy clubs as an opening act. That was how I made my living. I traveled 45 weeks a year. I was offered a full-time job as an adjunct teacher, like an adjunct instructor. Technically, I'm not a professor because I don't have my PhD. I just have a master's, so I'm not a professor, but I would be considered an adjunct instructor. I got offered a full-time position. I didn't take it for a number of reasons. One, because doing comedy is a lot more fun. And two, it would have been a pay cut. A full-time teaching job. I made more money as an opening act. Now, keep in mind, I drove a 98 Accord. I was in my mechanics. I was at my mechanics so often. We're still on a first name basis 4 years later. My mechanic, Chris, out in Nashville, Tennessee. If you're in the Tennessee area, you want the best mechanic in town, let me know. I'll refer you to him. He's the best. We're still on a first name basis with each other. He still remembers me and remembers the car I drove 4 years later. That's how often I was at my mechanics. So I had a ton of upkeep on my vehicle is my point. I would be getting oil changes every 2 weeks. Even still, it was a pay cut. Even factoring in those expenses, being self-employed, not getting W-2s. It was still, although some kind of gigs did give you a W-2, but we don't need to get into all the nitty-gritty here, but it was still a pay cut to be a full-time teacher versus being an opening act. That's astonishing. That is astonishing. At one point, I even lived in my car. I made more money doing that than I would have if I would have had a full-time teaching job. That's how low adjunct instructors are paid. And I was living paycheck to paycheck, folks. Like I was like this is not, I was working my way up. I was trying to make it in showbiz. And, I'm not saying feel sorry for me because I was having a lot of fun. Life on the road was a lot of fun for a long time until eventually you're like, this is the ceiling. I think I want to go to LA and try to. Anyway, we don't need to get into my life story. Point is, teachers are grossly underpaid on every level. grossly underpaid. And they're finally striking to demand what they deserve. There has been no teacher strike that has happened, this one included, where the teachers were asking for anything unreasonable. They weren't asking for a lounge with a freaking amusement park. They weren't asking for statues of each of them outside on the playground. They're asking for living wages. They're asking for supplies and equipment and facilities that are adequate for a learning environment. And in some cases, they're asking for support staff to get living wages as well, because they know that everybody at the school who is working is equally important. And it takes everybody, down from everyone from the principal to the custodian and everyone in between, the lunch suppliers. And I don't know if those are full-time people or part-time people. I guess it varies, but you get the idea. They're calling for living wages for themselves and others. They're calling for adequate supply. They're not asking for it. These are things that they shouldn't have to ask for. These are things that they should just have. You know why? A, because we're the richest country in the face of the planet. These people are working an honest job. They should be given proper facilities. They should be given living wages. Period. Full stop. Oh, and the other thing, you know what their job is? They're responsible for the future of our freaking planet. They're educating our children. How do we not take this more seriously? Well, gee, our children are getting shot in school and we're doing nothing about that either. We're doing nothing about that. So maybe we just don't value our children that much. Maybe that's what's really going on here. And wow, that's something. Isn't that something? And people asked my fiance and myself why we're thinking of not having children. They're asking us why we're thinking we're probably not going to have kids. Sit down. How much time do you have? I can fill you in on a lot. Why don't I want to have kids? How much? I don't know if we want to have this in a pleasant. For those of you that weren't tuned in yesterday, I got back. The reason there wasn't a show Monday, I had a wedding engagement party. It technically was called a Jack and Jill shower, which means, like, traditionally a shower is more for the bride to be, and the dude is not really part of it. And I know these are kind of old school things, right? It's very I don't know. Is traditional the right word? What do you say there? Yeah, but I get the idea. It's an old fashioned thing to begin with. So we did a Jack and Jill shower. I casually referred to it as a Jack off Jill shower. I thought that was funny, and I feel like my fiance's sisters also found the humor in it, or they were trying to be polite to me. I got a kick out of it. I don't know if anyone else did. I'd like to think they did. This is future family, right? But anyway, when you do one of those, it's just an engagement party. That's really all it is. So anyway, I was at that. So the talk of marriage, nobody really, only a couple people like brought up children and stuff. And it wasn't, they were just sort of like, you're going to, and it was my future mother-in-law. She was like, are you guys going to have kids? And we were like, yeah, we're kind of leaning towards no, for a number of reasons. And she actually said, she's like, hey, no pressure here. I actually don't think this is a good world to bring kids into in many ways. I was like, well, yeah, no argument coming from me. Anyway, yeah, teachers in Chicago, we're with you. Solidarity. I hope you guys get every single demand you have. When it comes to strikes, I'm very, very biased. If you want to have a fair and balanced perspective, quote unquote, when it comes to strikes, this ain't the show for you. I stand with the workers. I stand with the 99%. I stand with the people who are demanding what they deserve. And in my world, that's pretty freaking objective, actually. If you want someone who's going to play a violin for the 1%, this ain't the show for you. I don't even own a violin, and if I did, I sure as hell wouldn't play it for the 1%. Thank you for being there, John Cusack. I hope you held up a boombox. If I was ever at a strike, and thank you for being there, Bernie Sanders. If I was ever at a strike and John Cusack was there, I'd want him to hold up a boombox, blaring union hymns. That is what I would want. I should tweet at him and tell him that. I should. All right. Let's find him on Twitter. John Cusack. He should just populate, right? Why is he not populating for me? All right. I guess I got it. Oh, wait. It's because I typed Josh. It's my morning, folks. John, there he is. Found him. Thank you for joining Standing with the Teachers in Chicago. That was really cool of you. Also, hope you held up a boombox blasting Union hymns / Billy Bragg. That'd be bad ass. Okay. Just tweeted it to him. Show that tweet some love. I just tweeted it right now. Right at John Cusack. Thank you for standing with the teachers in Chicago. That was really cool of you. Also, hope you held up a boombox blasting Union hymns, Billy Bragg. That'd be badass. See what he says. See what he says. I hope he gets back to me. Please show that. Please show that tweet some love. It'd be cool if John Cusack retweeted that. He tweeted out a video I was in once. That was pretty neat. I hope he tweets out my my strike thing. I hope he tweets out my strike thing.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make